All right, so this is what I've been waiting for. My new AI, what the hell is it, employee? Gone the full-blown Clawdbot. Been running it on a VPS at this point. Wife decided she wants a Clawdbot. Best way to do this probably is just to get a Mac Mini. Full stop. Don't forget, you've got to get a monitor of some sort. So I was looking at used monitors and I found this like portable, I don't know what it is, HDMI connected monitor that called from InQView, whatever the hell that is. It's like a small 15.5-inch monitor that will connect into Type-C, or I think it'll have HDMI probably is what we'll connect with. And then had to get a keyboard and a mouse. So you can't really set up your Mac Mini without these things. In the end, you need a monitor and a keyboard and a mouse. So that paused things for a few days. Here we are. We're going to set this up physically. And then we're going to figure out how do we set up multiple agents? Because theoretically, you should be able to set up hundreds of agents on one Mac Mini. Let's start with two, or well, let's start with one. I've been using my agent valet on VPS on Companion.ai, and that's been okay. And I've just been reluctant to give it full throttle on things. So my plan is this. I'm going to set up the Mac Mini, I think initially with my own, the same iCloud that is on my MacBook, but then I will also create its own iCloud address so it can have its own iMessenger. So that'll be the first things that I do. Then I'm going to give it its own like Google Workspace account on one of my domains, maybe Cloud Advisory or Ops.ai, one of those two. Or maybe I'll make a new one. Maybe we'll use Valet. Maybe that's the right way to go. I'll think through that. And then we're going to connect it to Telegram again, which my current Clawdbot Valet is on Telegram, and that's how I've been communicating with it. I notice it times out a little bit, so I'm hoping that goes away having the Mac Mini. We'll find out. And then I'll probably also try to integrate it again. I tried integrating my other one to Slack and I had some issues with it, so I wasn't quite able to do that. And then what I've been experimenting with is basically giving it an onboarding like an employee. So I'm going to write out an onboarding document of what I want it to do and then what access it needs. So most of the access that I'm going to give it, I'm not going to use browser-based access for most things. I am going to integrate to Kimi K2.5. That's what I've been running with on os.companion.ai, and that's really good. And it's like apparently 30 times cheaper, from what I can tell. That is true. 30 times cheaper than running Claude. Now, I will also set it up with Claude Code at some point because it's going to want to do its own application development. And I'll probably have to give it API access to a few things. One is I have a publishing API that has like Twitter, LinkedIn, other platforms. Well, those are probably the two primary platforms I'm thinking of. I think it has Reddit, but I'm not a big Reddit guy, but I think there's opportunity on Reddit. So I want it to create and manage all my content calendars and make sure that it's publishing every day with enough volume that I'm not worrying about it, because I spend too much time right now messing around with content. And then I can focus on one big video a week that turns into a bunch of shorts. That's kind of my game plan. And then I'm also going to have it manage campaigns. So outreach, B2B outreach campaigns across LinkedIn and email. I will give it access to the necessary APIs through Ops and Linked Ops so that it can do that. And that's kind of my game plan. And my goal is to grow community around people that want to do two things. Understand and use AI and figure out what that means to them in their new career, because a lot of people are being outsourced or want to be outsourced. That's always a possibility too. So how do you use Clawdbot so that you don't have to hire so many people, or you don't have to hire anybody? Because it really seems like this thing can think in a lot of ways. Like it's very action oriented, but we're going to figure that out. All right, so step one is let's unpack everything, let's fire it up, and then we'll get to terminal and we can go from there for setup. We have a Senda Bluetooth keyboard and mouse combo for Mac, MacBook Mini, which is going to be keeping always on Clawdbot, and then rather than getting a full monitor, this little portable one. So I'm going to unpack it all and see what we got. All right, I am curious about this monitor. It was like 59 bucks, and I was looking at getting used ones that were like 30 to 50 bucks, and I didn't really feel like that because they were mostly not specific for Mac. And this seems to be something, it's HDMI and I think Type-C if I'm not mistaken. So you should be able to use it also with an iPad. My wife just bought a new iPad. She loves the iPads. I've never really been into iPads too much, but I do have a Samsung Galaxy Fold, which is kind of like my tablet. So there is that. I get the appeal of iPad. Oh boy. Huh. Oh, okay, that's not what I see. So you can definitely use this. It's got HDMI and it's got Type-C. I mean, this is all I really need. I'm not planning on using the Mac Mini as an everyday computer. All right, Type-C and HDMI. I think that's for my light. So it'll just power off the HDMI. Let's see what happens. How does this work? I might have to read instructions. Interesting. I don't see power on it. I don't see a power cable. I wonder if the Type-C is how you power it. I am now very curious. Let's see. Function, power on, off is where? Oh, it's the bottom one. All right. So far that's not working. Because it's Type-C, that should connect to everything. HDMI obviously for this. Power, long press while the device is powered on. Turn it off. OSD menu, press to. It doesn't really say how to power it. To charge it? I'm confused here. You got HDMI and Type-C, which makes no sense. Interesting. So the power definitely comes through Type-C, so I might need an adapter. So there's that. All right, so we've got that going. Apple support, what is it telling me? Oh, what? Huh. This is like 37 bucks for the mouse and the keyboard. Pretty reasonable. Like if you get Macintosh stuff directly, it's insane. It's pretty nice. This little, look at the mouse. I haven't touched one of these in a while. Up on the internet. Curious. Okay. Okay, so there's power on these two things. Does not appear to be a touchscreen.
To use English as the main language, press the return key.
Oh, look at this. It's already connected. Okay. So keyboard and mouse, we're in business here. I think I'm not going to put that on right now. Oh. Pair your keyboard. To pair a Bluetooth keyboard, turn it on. Wait for your computer to connect to it. That's great. All right, so it recognized the keyboard. Just turn on and off. Magically worked. Bluetooth. Like Mac, it's magic. I don't know if it's the best way to do this. So now we're just doing migration. I don't really have any migration. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect it initially. I don't know if I create, I want it to have its own iMessage. The only problem is if I don't have it on the same network as this. Yeah, so I'm going to do both. I'm going to connect this with my existing iCloud account. Man, Apple, you're hiding my own password. That's ridiculous. Let's see. It did, I put the request in to install Xcode or Xtools. Yeah, I guess it's Xcode. And it says, yeah, check it out. It's going to have this little pop-up, which it wasn't coming up. So I checked down here and it was just sitting here for some dumb reason. I don't know why. So now it's installing Xcode. All right, so Xcode is now installed. So let's see what the next step would be. Xcode installed, make your user an administrator. So we're going to do that. I think I'm already an administrator. Install requested for command line developer tools. Well, I typed something weird there, so we're going to fix that. And we're just going to install the script sudo ds edit group -0 edit -a. This is my username on this machine. -t user admin. All right, let's see what happens. And then it's asking me for my passcode. So did it work? I don't even know. I'm going to find out. My brain is slow. All right, so I followed the commands to make sure Homebrew is working. And then it's now, so I've already installed Xcode, Homebrew, and basically it's saying, what version of Homebrew do you have? I told it goes great, now install Node.js. So I'm simply going to copy this as step 1, and then I will install Openclaw. Okay, so then I'm just going to install Openclaw. And I'm literally getting Openclaw to explain to me how to install Openclaw. This Openclaw is hosted on Companion.ai, and I'm talking to it through Telegram, which I installed on my Mac Mini. So yes, I'm cheating, but I really don't care at this point. Okay. And I'm going to go, it's added all these packages, so I think this is good. It's thinking. And it's going to tell me what to do next, which is install -G Openclaw. Interesting. I thought I already, well, we know Node.js is installed, but I already tried to install Openclaw. That's kind of weird. I thought I already did this. Yeah, we know Node.js is installed. Why am I installing Openclaw a second time? To take human inquiries and then turn it into logic between what the user's asking and then responding, right? And then the engine itself is Openclaw, Clawdbot, and I've configured that to work as my wife's assistant named Jane. I gave Jane also a Brave search token, which lets Jane search the internet. And then I gave Jane my wife's domain name, and she searched up my wife's profile and came back with information on who my wife was and what she does and who she's, she knows that she's working for my wife, not me. And then of course, before all that, actually, I integrated using something called BotFather, the BotFather, kind of like the Godfather, to integrate to Telegram. So the biggest issue I had originally was getting it to work with Kimmy. What I found was it was trying to connect me to the moonshot.cn. The Chinese version of Kimmy is on a Chinese website, and so my token was not from there. It's from the .ai. I guess it's an international or US site. So the moonshot.ai site or the endpoint for the Kimmy LLM is .ai. You don't want to use the Chinese one. Now it is a Chinese model, and that can spook some people, but it's a lot. It's like 30% or 30 times cheaper allegedly than using Grok or OpenAI. We're gonna find out if that's true or not. We'll kind of track it. It is very good. Like, I was using Claude before Opus, and I think it was blasting through the credits. And Kimmy is just as good, to be honest with you. Like, I don't know. Now, I haven't tried coding yet, so coding will be interesting because you can install Claude code and you can code with it. So maybe for that, it might make sense to have a bot that is specific to Opus 4.6 as your model. And Opus is very good, but I don't see you're losing anything with Kimmy, and it seems to be a hell of a lot cheaper. And then the thing is, all of your data is inside your Clawdbot, so it's keeping files, essentially these MD files, on different subjects. So like whether it's API tokens or it's history of conversations or memory of stuff it's done for you. Now the next thing it is, I set up Jane at my wife's domain, marisandrada.com, and I'm in the process of setting up a Google Cloud Console so that she can manage calendars, folders, and emails. So that's kind of what's next on the agenda, and I don't know why I'm locked out of this. It's really kind of frigging annoying, but I'm gonna figure it out. The Mac had like a freak out. I guess the HDMI started freaking out on this monitor, so I was like, I could not get back in. It wasn't taking input, so yeah, that's what was going. It's up and running. And what's interesting is I was telling Jane, who is on the Mac Mini, I'm like, hey man, I can't get into this device. What is going on? And she goes, okay. I said, are you still active? My Mac Mini is acting up. And she goes, yes, I'm still here. I'm still responding. And she goes, sounds like Finder on the Windows server crashed. Let me try to restart it. Finder's running now. Let me also restart the dock and check this. So it started controlling stuff on the Mac. And she said, do the command option escape to force quit. Nothing happened. You should see a login prompt with your password. I did a power reset. So it was actually helping control the Mac Mini. This is good, and it's scary. Because whatever you put on there, this thing can control it. So you gotta be really careful, obviously. So, the thing, I'm having a weird problem setting up a new iCloud. I really want to do that now because my iCloud is connected to this. I don't need that. I mean, I gotta figure out how to put guardrails on it. So that is an issue, right? But it's kind of interesting. Like, it shows you, I'm just like, dropping a little penny in an ocean at the moment. All right, so next thing I gotta do is I gotta set up this Google Cloud Console, so going back. So the thing that I wanna do is I wanna basically set up Google Workspace. And that's next on my agenda here. So just to recap, installed from the single line terminal prompt, Openclaw, configured it, took a little while to work with Telegram. Actually, that was pretty quick, and using something called BotFather is how it does that. And it basically creates a session, a secure token ID, and you connect it that way. So it's interesting. So you can communicate through Telegram. So that worked. And then I was having some trouble connecting to Kimmy, realized why. It was connecting to the Chinese .cn server, and obviously I'm not on that, so I activated my API developer account on Kimi. And don't get confused with Kimi, the chatbot. What you want is the developer account, and I connected, created an API token, gave it to the system, and it was trying to go to the .cn endpoint for the API for Kimi, which is the LLM model, instead of like OpenAI or Claude. You can obviously use OpenAI or Claude as well, and I think you can use Grok, no problem. So if you have a developer token for those, you can use those as your model. And you need that model, basically that's what's powering the conversational element, right? All right, then I set up Jane at my wife's domain. I gave it a Brave search API token. So now Jane, the Clawdbot, can search the internet. And the first thing I had to do was to check out my wife's domain, which she came back with a profile based upon that domain, understands her resume, the work she does, and who she is from that. I don't know if that would include LinkedIn. Like, can Jane, let's ask, you can ask, can you search LinkedIn? But what I really want to do now is set up Google Cloud. So I'm going to set up basically the ability for Jane to manage calendars, files, and then email through Google Workspace. So that's next. Yeah, so maybe we skip this step for now. Okay, so that worked. So it had me check what version of Openclaw was installed, which is 2026.2.6-3. And now it's saying create a workspace. Jane bot configured, great. And the final thing I wanted to do today was connect to Google Calendar. So there's actually quite a few kind of manual steps to this. And Jane outlined what I had to do, which was, we have an account for her at jane@marisaandrada.com on Google Workspace. I had to go in and I had to create a Google Cloud application, and then I assigned permissions to it, and that generated a JSON file. And then the JSON file was used along with, inside of that was all the auth scopes, the OAuth security scopes for Calendar, Gmail, and Drive. And then basically added the JSON to the domain to manage domain-wide delegation. The results of this is the following. Let's see what I can access. Calendar, 3 calendars. Maurice's primary, holiday, and transferred from a prior assistant. Upcoming events, Drive folders were found, agendas, PDFs, event calendars, etc. A little scary. What I can do now, read, write calendar events. That's what she wants. Send mails from jane@marisaandrada.com. That's what she wants. Access and manage Drive files. That one makes me a little nervous. I wonder if we should change it to read only. I might do that. Add an event. She says you want to test it. Add an event to Maurice's calendar, check her schedule for a specific day, send a test email, find a file in Drive. Everything's wired up and ready. So that's great. And then I said, I'm nervous. But I said we need a rule to be very, very, very careful with her calendar and to check before making changes until she trusts you and says to remove this. How can you keep track of these sorts of rules? So then it created a whole rule, and we're going to find out if it follows them. But basically it says, look, here's how I track it. I keep it in the user.md file. And before any calendar action, I'll check myself. Am I protection mode? Yes. Did I get explicit confirmation? If no, stop and ask. Pattern, when you ask me to do something with the calendar, my response will always be, show you what I would do. Ask for explicit confirmation. Only then execute. So that might get annoying, but at least it's like a safeguard. And I need to do something similar to that for Drive. And then I'm going to test it having an email, so we can always do that as well. All right, so then to do a test of the ability to send email, I said, okay, can you create a summary of all your capabilities and the rules that we just outlined in an email and send it to me and then Marisa. I gave our email addresses, and it's drafted and sent the email. So we're going to check and see if it's there. It's there. I don't know why this is crazy, but it works. Man. All right, well, that's one. It's really detailed, so you can see where you can really, man, you gotta come up with like an onboarding for this. Just think of what you want it to do, and then be very explicit, because this thing is just gonna be action oriented, and it's gonna take action. It's gonna do stuff, and I don't want it to be any like nightmare stuff it's doing. But I don't know. This is pretty crazy. What do you think? Is this better than hiring someone?